On this episode of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie
That is really just creepy and distasteful, but scientific.
get the jump on a blockbuster boom.
Blowing up, please.
Can freezing a bomb Hollywood style
We're getting power.
and taking cover in a bathtub
Ready to go in 3.
really save your life?
Wow.
Meanwhile, Carrie, Tori, and Grant fly by the seat of their pants.
I don't think I've ever flown this close to another plane.
Can flying like birds in a V formation
And we started getting sucked in towards the lead plane.
save planes fuel
Why are we doing this?
and you money.
There's a lot of sexy data we got going here. Sexy data, not just the normal stuff.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage.
It's scientific!
And Jamie Heineman.
I'll be darned.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Carrie Byron,
Time to wreck this car.
Tori Belleci,
We only have one shot at this.
and Grant Imahara.
I'm okay.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test. First up, Adam and Jamie have a tub-thumping jump.
This is a story that is about literally almost kissing your ass goodbye.
How's that?
This one comes from Lethal Weapon 2. In the movie, Danny Glover sits down on the toilet in his house for a regular constitutional and he hears a click. When he looks down, he notices that his toilet's been rigged with a pressure switch that will set off a bomb the moment he stands up. Are you with me?
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie.
That doesn't surprise me. Anyway, he waits there all night before getting up the courage to call his partner, Mel Gibson, who shows up, and they concoct this plan that they will leap from the toilet into the bathtub for protection from the bomb. The bomb squad has this technique which they use in the film where they pour liquid nitrogen on the bomb, slowing it down for, quote, a few seconds, which supposedly is enough time for Mel and Danny to get from the toilet into the bathtub covered with the bomb blanket and to survive the blast.
I like the fact that there are several parts to this story. And the first one is, how fast can you get from the toilet into the tub?
Yes. And the second one is, how much, if at all, could liquid nitrogen slow down the detonation of a bomb?
And lastly, if you did get into the tub in time, would it and the bomb blanket actually protect you?
Precisely. So what say we start with reaction time? Set up a toilet and a bathtub in the proper geometry and just see how fast we can make it from one end to the other.
Works for me.
All right.
So first, the guys will attempt some lethal leaping.
Found us a toilet.
Good.
And for that, they decide to precisely recreate the scene of the crime.
Oh, man.
So to replicate the bathroom, we're using the same type of bathtub as was used in the movie, an annoyingly large and heavy cast iron one. That's the real deal. And I've got to fit in there with you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And we've got the same type of toilet, a one-piece porcelain one. We're going to place them the same distance apart, just like in the movie. And we've even got a corner wall so that every last thing is exactly the same.
Everything matches exactly. But how will they time the jump from toilet to tub?
While it's never explicitly stated, it's pretty obvious that the bomb in the movie is triggered by a pressure switch under the toilet seat, which is convenient because we're going to use the same thing to trigger our timing runs. This little pressure switch right here. When we sit down on the toilet, we will compress the pressure switch and the system is armed. At that point, when we get up from the toilet, boop, the timer starts going until we're in the bathtub covered with the blanket. We'll film it on high speed. We'll be able to see exactly how many seconds it takes us to get there, and if that's enough.
And with the final piece of the puzzle, a 30-pound bomb blanket, just like the one from the movie, Adam gets protected for a solo systems check.
3, 2, 1, go.
That wasn't that bad.
Everything works, which means now the MythBusters have to embrace something awkward, each other.
So, unfortunately, I don't see any other way to test this.
Just to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to this. All right, let's set it up.
There's no room for armor, so the guys will just have to get up close and personal.
Ready?
All right, ready?
And it's gonna be 3, 2, 1, and then go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. We gotta do it one more time. I missed the blanket. That is really just creepy and distasteful, but scientific.
Scientific indeed, although Jamie seems to exit the tub at the same speed he got into it.
All right, let's see how we did here.
The jump is even more hilarious in slow motion.
Your form is excellent. You're hugging the side.
But it's clear that having Jamie stay low while Adam deals with the blanket is the right strategy.
That is unbelievable. There we go. We are at 2 seconds, and 2 guys are fully covered in that bathtub. Nice work.
2 seconds ain't bad, but to see if they can improve, the guys go for the best of 3.
1, go. Hey, that was pretty darn good.
I'm getting all bruised along this side.
Me too. Jamie and I were able to get from the toilet into the tub and covered by the bomb blanket in just under 2 seconds flat. Now the question is, will pouring liquid nitrogen on our plastic explosives bomb slow its detonation down by at least that amount of time? If it can, then it would seem that Mel and Danny could get to the relative and possible safety of the bathtub in time. If it doesn't, then I guess they'd be vaporized. Either way, it's going to be awesome.
Next, Carrie, Tori, and Grant are winging it.
All right, so what's the myth?
So I'm sure you've seen birds flying in a V.
Yeah.
Okay, well, supposedly they do that because it's more energy efficient, which leads into our myth. If it works for birds, can it work for planes?
So do you actually save fuel by flying in a V formation?
Exactly.
And more importantly, save money.
Birds of a feather flock together. And they also fly in V formations. But does that conserve energy? And if it does, is what's good for the goose also good for planes in the wide blue yonder?
All right, so I think the first thing we should do is go talk to a bird expert. Let's find out if they actually do fly in a V formation because it's more energy efficient.
Then we could get some small-scale models of planes taken to NASA's water channel and see if they do the same thing.
Sounds like a great plan.
It's a two-pronged plan. And to find out why birds fly in a V, Carrie and Tori head to Chrissy Field's Bird Sanctuary,
Come on, Carrie.
I know you're gonna do that.
where bird expert Peter Pyle can answer their feathery inquiries.
All right, now, why is it that you see birds flying in V formation?
The birds behind the lead individual, all birds going back in the V, will save energy by flying within the vortices of the wing beats of the bird in front of them.
Now, you're talking about riding the vortex. What does that mean?
Each bird, as it flaps its wing, creates a vortex behind that wing. And the vortex is created because there's a pressure differential between higher pressure below the wing and lower pressure above. And this creates an eddy that filters behind each wing.
So as a wing moves through air, it creates a wingtip vortex. These low-pressure spinning cones of air create upwash, giving the bird behind a boost and making it easier to stay aloft. But do the birds save energy?
Researchers studying this have filmed birds and have seen that the birds behind the lead bird will flap less deeply and flap less often than that lead bird will. So that's the first clue that they're saving energy through flying in that formation.
Okay, so less flapping means birds do save energy flying in the V formation, meaning Carrie can start on stage 2.
Now, after talking to our bird expert, I'm starting to think this myth is looking really, really good. But birds are not aircraft. So I'm building a model airplane to take to NASA's water tunnel so I can see if flying in a flap formation has the same benefits for airplanes as it does for birds.
Since planes don't flap their wings, the team will examine the aerodynamics behind a fixed-wing aircraft.
Sand it, paint it, put it in the tunnel.
And after a luminous paint job, Carrie's model is ready to strut its stuff.
Love coming here.
Water tunnel, good fun.
At NASA, Steve Smith is on hand to help figure out the aerodynamics of the V formation.
Okay, model's in place.
All right, so what are we gonna see here?
Okay, well, let's go ahead and turn the dye flow on.
I can start to see it, like, create kind of a tube.
As the dye flows, it's clear that there is a vortex coming off the wingtip of the front plane.
There's an upward motion from this spiral that's putting the following airplane in upwash.
So being in the upwash of the vortex is creating lift and making it easier for the plane to fly, therefore becoming more fuel efficient.
Exactly.
Just like the aerodynamics of birds in a V formation, the fixed wing also creates a vortex behind its wingtip. And the resulting upwash makes it easier for the follow plane to stay aloft.
Now, how far back could you be and still get the benefit?
So the trailing vortex actually persists for a long ways downstream. In the case of jetliners, it lasts for miles downstream.
And that's the proof of concept that the MythBusters need.
So look at these planes in formation. This myth is looking really good to me. The dye illustrates the airflow, and the lead plane's creating these vortices. Now, if the follow plane can get in just the right sweet spot, the upwash from those vortices are going to make lift easier, which should translate to having to use less power, which then could save in fuel.
That's the theory, but as the MythBusters know, theory and practice are two very different concepts.
So the next step is to see if this model scales up to full-size planes.
So, toilet bomb. We left this story with the plan to do some liquid nitrogen testing.
But we're not, are we?
Nah, we're not, because we looked back at the original footage and we missed some of the parameters.
Neither of us were wearing bulletproof vests.
Exactly, and I'm sorry to say, you weren't wearing your pants around your ankles.
And I hadn't sat on the toilet for 12 hours.
Exactly. So I think we need to do those tests again and see how they actually affect our time.
I'm not going to have to sit on the toilet for 12 hours, am I?
I can't imagine that we're going to go all that way, but we should talk to an expert to make sure it's not too dangerous.
Sounds like a plan to me.
A marathon 12-hour toilet sit would limit blood flow to the legs and make the hero's jump harder to achieve. But is it even safe to attempt it?
Here's bulletproof vest, dude. Okay. You realize for full accuracy, you're also going to need to pull your pants down around your ankles.
Great.
And to find out the maximum time that Jamie can remain on the throne, Adam sought out an expert.
Jamie, here's our expert, Dr. Cho. He's a neurologist.
Hi, doctor. So, Doc, I have some questions. In the movie, Danny Glover sits on the toilet overnight, something like 12 hours, give or take. Now, I was thinking maybe I'll sit on the toilet here for 6 or 7. Is there a problem with doing that?
It is problematic, mainly because you're actually creating mechanical pressure on the nerve, and in a long period of time, it can damage the nerve and cause weakness and severe pain. In addition, you can compress the blood vessels that go to the rest of the leg, and the blood vessels start to clot off. If it clots, then some of those clots can break off and go to your lung, your heart, or other organs, and of course can be quite dangerous to the point of killing you.
So I could have, what, a stroke or a heart attack?
Exactly.
Is there some sort of a threshold? Is that an hour beyond which you're, like, at risk?
So I would say that a minimal amount of time, maybe 1 to 2 hours, is probably where you should cut off the experiment.
Okay. Well, thanks, Doc.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So it's only safe to sit for a maximum of 2 hours, which is good because the strain is starting to show.
I've been sitting on the toilet about 26 minutes, and the first symptom has occurred, and that is that one foot, my left foot, is starting to tingle. It's a little numb.
After a further hour of sitting it out, Jamie's legs are uncomfortably numb.
How's it going there, buddy? How you feeling?
Well, I'm in a fair amount of pain.
Oh, crap.
I can't say that for sure whether my legs are like paralyzed or not. I don't think they are, but the area where the toilet seat cuts into the bottom sides of my legs is like a knife edge.
And that's the cue to go for another tub jump. But will Jamie's numb bum make that impossible?
All right, sir. I think we've got all the parameters in place. You feeling ready?
Let's do it.
Here we go, buddy. 1, 2, 3, launch!
Amazingly, even with numb legs and pads round ankles, the guys end up on the right side of the blanket.
Can I pull my pants up
Yes.
now?
Camera off, Jamie. Don't film him. It's terrible.
Surprisingly, the numb-legged jump was only marginally slower than their previous best time.
I think it's a good test.
I think 2 seconds is the target we want to hit. But with all the parameters we see in the film, Jamie and I were able to dive to safety in just under 2 seconds flat, which is a lot faster than I thought it would be when we started doing this testing. Now, it all comes down to whether or not liquid nitrogen can slow the bomb's reaction down enough to give us that mythical few seconds that are explained in the film.
Apparently, flocks of migrating birds fly in V formation to save energy. But if birds do it, can planes do it too? After their proof of concept test at NASA, the MythBusters are ready to take to the skies.
So we've come to the Tracy Airport to test the myth that flying in a V formation actually saves you fuel.
What a beautiful day to fly. Let's conserve some fuel.
Now, because this could be a significant savings, we've got not 1, not 2, not 3, but 9 planes.
9 planes and 9 pilots, courtesy of the West Coast Ravens. Aerial acrobatics is their specialty. And the guy leading them is Tim Cone, AKA Slick.
All right, so you're going to be helping us fly in this formation to see if we'll be able to save fuel.
Absolutely.
Now, how dangerous is that?
It's a little more dangerous than normal formation flying. We get upside down together in these formations, but we're not doing it in the wake turbulence. So adding the wake turbulence is an element that we've been practicing a little bit, so hopefully everything will work out all right.
Hopefully is right, but it might be a bumpy ride.
Now I realize that this is an aerobatic flying troop, and that I do suffer from motion sickness. But I would like you all to know that I've taken appropriate measures today, and I am not going to get sick.
Grant's motion sickness tablets will be put to the test too. But before that, what's the flight plan?
All right, we're going to start with the control test. We have 9 planes that are going to fly in a random pattern at different altitudes. We're going to establish a set speed of 110 knots. Now, we're going to fly for 10 minutes, and every 30 seconds, I'm going to write down a data point for their flow rate, and we're going to establish a baseline, and then we can compare all our other results to it.
So first up, all 9 planes will get airborne for a fuel consumption baseline.
Feel the need for data.
Your tray tables and seats in the landing positions.
The planes taxi down the runway and take off one after the other.
And we are off the ground. There's a liftoff.
All right, let's start the 10-minute clock now. Every 30 seconds, I'm going to take down a data point.
With the squad in random positions, maintaining a speed of 110 knots, the control test is off to a flying start.
Flow rate holding around 7 to 7.9 gallons per hour. This is a great control test. This is going to give us some juicy data. Yeah, you've never heard that before. Juicy data, not just the normal stuff. There's a lot of sexy data we got going here.
Every 30 seconds, that sexy fuel flow is collected for each plane, as they'll test against themselves, not the other planes.
All right, with only a minute to go in our control test, we're getting some really consistent results. We're looking at 6.56 gallons per hour.
And after 10 minutes of non-formation flying, the test comes to an end.
Copy that. Stop data logging. Okay, that completes our test.
We made it! Nice flying, G-Force. All right, let's see if next time we can save some fuel.
Back on solid ground, the results of the control are in.
So for the control test in my plane, cruising along at 110 knots at an altitude of approximately 4,000 feet, as you can see in the graphics, we get an average fuel consumption of 6.6 gallons per hour.
And the data for the other planes is similar. Fuel rate varies, but what's key is that the formation results for each plane will be compared against this baseline.
Now it's time to try out a few formations and see if that makes a difference.
With the good cops sitting on a time bomb, it's down to some liquid nitrogen, a quick jump, and a bathtub to save his butt. Adam and Jamie have proven it takes 2 seconds for 2 men to make the leap. But can pouring freezing liquid nitrogen onto a bomb create the 2-second delay needed for a getaway? The guys are headed to the top of the range to find out.
In the movie, they pour liquid nitrogen on the bomb behind the toilet in order to slow it down and give themselves an extra few seconds. Now, when we hear that statement, we figured that the liquid nitrogen could be acting in one of 2 ways. Either it is slowing down the C4's own reaction to the blasting cap going off and delaying the explosion, or it's actually slowing down the chemical reaction within the batteries that initiate that blasting cap going off. Whichever it is, we're going to find out here on the bomb range because we're going to try all those permutations right here.
For that, Adam has built a disposable rig to pour liquid nitrogen onto the bomb.
Perfect.
But the trickiest part will be capturing the detonation delay. So the MythBusters Brains Trust has designed this.
We've set up a system whereby when I press these buttons,
it sends power to this relay switch right here. Now, one leg of this relay
instantly lights up this LED sign.
Simultaneously, the relay's other leg sends power over to this block of C4, enough power, in fact, to detonate it. If there is any difference at all between the power impulse and the detonation, we should see it in the difference between the lighting of that sign and the detonation of this explosive.
And the first test of the system will be straight C4 to find the normal detonation delay.
Okay, arming the system.
All right, this is straight C4 in 3, 2, 1.
That was lovely.
That was really nice. Kind of a refreshing
Refreshingly explosive. But was there any kind of delay?
All right, it took 10 frames between the light lighting up and the C4 exploding. 10 frames, we were shooting at 3,000 frames per second, so it's effectively 3.3 milliseconds between initiation and detonation.
Just over 3,000ths of a second.
Yeah.
3 milliseconds is the standard C4 detonation delay. So now to crack open the liquid nitrogen.
This is exactly what I imagined being a mad scientist would be like when I was a child.
With 1 cup in the flask and an identical piece of C4 in the dish,
okay, we're set.
We're ready. The guys retire to safety, where they wait the 2 minutes of the movie for the C4 to fully freeze.
Okay, here we go. And 3, 2, 1, go!
I heard stuff hitting.
Yeah, no delay either. No delay.
Really?
Well, I mean, maybe a few milliseconds, but I heard 3, 2, 1, boom. I didn't hear 3, 2, 1, boom.
Maybe not, but perhaps the high-speed camera caught a freeze frame delay.
46 frames. It's 4.5 times greater of a delay when it was super, super cooled than when it was just normal.
Wow.
It still wouldn't help you get into that bathtub, though.
No.
It's a pretty tiny difference.
15 thousandths of a second is far from the mythical 2-second delay of the film. So what's next?
Now we're going to take a period-correct battery that's attached to our bomb that would absolutely ignite it. We're going to immerse that in the liquid nitrogen and see if that gives us the extra time that we're looking for.
Okay, this is where it would go off if it was gonna, and it didn't.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah. So what we've got here is the same setup that we've had so far. We've got our C4 and our blasting cap, but this time we also have a period-appropriate battery in there with the C4 that it will be connected to and setting off the blasting cap via the relay at exactly the same time, the same way we've been doing all the other experiments.
And with 1 cup of liquid nitrogen in the flask,
Here we go.
it's time for the 80s-style alkaline battery to chill out.
It's immersed.
Yep.
With the battery immersed in minus 300-degree liquid nitrogen, the guys wait the 2 minutes of the film.
All right, this is battery and C4 immersed in liquid nitrogen in 3, 2, 1, go.
No boom.
Whoa!
I'll hold it down again.
We're getting power. The system is still working because the sign's lighting up.
Yeah.
But we seem to have inhibited the battery's ability to set off the blasting cap.
It looks like the bomb has frozen up. But is there another reason it's not detonating?
You're sure it's properly wired? Pretty sure.
Pretty sure. We wired it the same way we did the others.
We've got an interesting situation on our hands. We've been pushing it repeatedly. We're getting no action. So now what we've got is a bowl full of liquid nitrogen, capped in C4 and a battery. We're just gonna sit here and wait until the liquid nitrogen boils off, and then we're gonna try and blow it up again.
After 15 minutes, the liquid nitrogen has evaporated. And now the moment of truth for the myth is if the delay will still remain.
Blowing up, please. In 3, 2, 1.
Oh! Nice! That worked beautifully! Woo! Well, I guess you did wire that circuit correctly.
Well, you know what that means for the movie? That means those guys could have just strolled right on out of that building. They didn't need to worry about the bathtub or bomb blankets or any of that stuff.
Totally. They got a lot more than a couple of extra seconds. They got an extra 15 minutes by my watch.
And we wouldn't have had to have gotten into the bathtub together either.
I guess all that experimentation was a waste.
Yeah.
Not a waste. At least you'll always have the high speeds.
I absolutely love it when an experiment cleanly shows the whole scope of what you're hoping to demonstrate in one fell swoop. We basically made a C4 battery-powered bomb in a container full of liquid nitrogen. And what we found was that in that nitrogen, the battery did not detonate the bomb. The bomb didn't go off.
No boom.
But this could be for one of two reasons. It could be because we cooled down the battery. It could also be because we've miswired the battery. You never know. So then we just waited until all the liquid nitrogen was gone, pushed the button, and that sucker went right off.
Nice!
That, to me, is just a beautiful construction of an experiment.
And a beautiful illustration of the science behind the movie myth.
Well, it would appear that the Lethal Weapon 2 Bomb Squad's technique for slowing down a bomb are far more effective in reality than they are in the movies. When does that ever happen?
Yeah, I know. But we're not done yet. There's still quite a few more pieces to this puzzle that we have to tease out.
I know. Let's get to it.
All right, so we're back. We're out at the Tracy Airport to test whether flying in a V formation will actually save you fuel. But we're not just going to test the V formation. We're also going to test flying abreast, side by side, and a conga line to see if maybe there are other formations that might save you fuel.
Just like the control test, we'll be flying in these formations for 10 minutes. We'll be monitoring how much fuel is being used. Once we're done, we'll see which formation is the most efficient. Most importantly, to see whether or not flying in a V formation is the best way to go.
This myth is all about the fuel efficiency of the V. But that's not the only formation that could save fuel. For a complete set of results, they'll also test the side-by-side and the conga line. But the first formation for our squad of 9 planes is the mythical V.
Now this is the dangerous part as we move into V formation, because remember, we are flying in the vortices of the airplane in front of us.
All right, let's start the 10-minute clock now.
Flow rate is now 6.8. So right now, each plane is in the other's sweet spot. That sounds creepy, but it's true.
And that sweet spot just happens to be in the wingtip vortex of the plane in front. And although it creates lift, it's also very unstable.
We went a little bit too far in, and we started getting sucked in towards the lead plane. And if you're too far out, yeah, you get no gain at all.
It takes a lot of skill to stay out of trouble, but the West Coast Ravens hold formation.
Collecting data is a lot more fun from an airplane. Here we go. We're approaching 7 minutes, and we've got 6.47 gallons per hour.
After 10 minutes, the test comes to an end.
So we've just finished the tight V formation. And looking at the numbers, it's already apparent that flying in the V formation saves you more fuel than flying without it.
But the final fuel efficiency results will stay up in the air because the squad moves straight into the side-by-side formation.
Okay, so this test right here is going to be side by side, what they call ship abreast. And that's basically wingtip to wingtip. There's no going to be advancing or trying to get in front of like a V. This is basically side by side.
There's some turbulence caused by the planes being so close together.
I have to say I'm a little bit nervous about this one. I don't think I've ever flown this close to another plane. On purpose, at least.
The planes are so close, in fact, that the guys have a clear eye line through to each other.
Yeah, I could see Grant right there. I thought Grant was going to be a little more green, but he's handling this quite well.
Now, in formation, the data collection begins again.
All right, we are about 2 minutes in, and we're using 6.18 gallons per hour.
But being only 15 feet away from each other is challenging their concentration.
Oh yeah, data. Gotta take the data.
I am breathing a little deeper, just trying to calm down, but the fact that we are practically on top of each other side by side is freaking me out just a little bit. Luckily, collecting data is distracting me.
It's a heady mix of data and danger. And after 10 minutes, it's time for the final formation.
Right now we are moving into position to set up for the conga line.
Okay, so this test coming up is what we call the conga line. From what I'm told, this could get bumpy, so I've got my bag just in case it gets messy back here. Hopefully it's not going to get messy.
And that stomach-churning ride is all down to position.
Here I have the easy ride being up in front. I heard Tori and Grant have a little rougher time back behind me.
Yep, because as the planes take their places, it's clear this isn't going to be smooth sailing.
We just went from a nice, easy, smooth flight to a roller coaster ride. Because we are now flying through the other plane's rotor wash, and it's very turbulent.
Oh, whoa, okay.
It's a rotor wash roller coaster in the name of fuel efficiency.
2 minutes in, we have 6.35 gallons.
But the turbulence of this test is making the others look tame.
And I thought line abreast was scary.
Now, here's an interesting thing. The pilot in front of us is getting kicked out, and when they get kicked out, so do we. So it's sort of a thing that you go all the way down the line. It's like bang, bang, bang.
Oh my God. I hate the conga line. Holy crap. Why are we doing this? This doesn't seem safe at all.
Well, after the bumpiest 10 minutes of their lives, the MythBusters can finally touch down.
Okay, and we are down. That concludes our conga line test. Thank goodness. And I'd like to point out for all of you watching at home, the bag is empty, but only just.
Good news, we've got some data. Better news, we're still alive.
Back on terra firma, it's time to find out if any of the formations saved fuel.
All right, you guys ready to crunch some data?
Oh, yes, sir.
And after a bumper number crunch, the results are in.
Now, there is a lot of raw data, but the results from our planes tell the story. Now, all the control baselines are roughly similar, but what's really interesting is the formation flying. In the conga line, the fuel usage went way up by as much as 18%. In the side-by-side, the fuel usage was pretty much the same as the control, maybe a fraction lower, but not significantly so. But then there's the V. Now, both mine and Tori's planes saved fuel. We were 5% and 3% more efficient than the baseline. But interestingly, even Carrie's plane, which was the lead plane, saved fuel. which is what studies on birds have also reflected. And remember that all our tests are performed at the same altitude and the same speed, so all our data is good and comparable. And good data is what it's all about.
Good data. That can only lead to one conclusion.
This myth is confirmed. We saw it work in theory in the water tunnel. We saw it work in practice in the air. Now, 3 to 5% savings in fuel actually translates to a lot of money if you think about it in the long term.
Flying in a V formation may save you fuel, but there's a flaw.
Is it really practical that anyone would fly that close realistically? Maybe we should try it again, but this time have our spacing be a little safer.
See if you extend the V out further, if you still get that fuel efficiency.
It'd be a lot safer. Let's try it.
Welcome back. We've been investigating the bomb-proof bathtub buddy jump from Lethal Weapon 2, and so far, we have actually determined that the techniques used by the bomb squad in that film would give you plenty of time to get from the toilet inside the protection of the bathtub under the bomb blanket. Oh! Nice! That worked beautifully! Now, it's time to figure out if, once you're in that bathtub, you could actually survive the blast. Behind me, Jamie is leveling a spot for putting a real coded, full-size bathroom in, and then we're gonna blow it up.
It's the final part of this filmic fable, survivability.
Regard the Heinemann in his natural habitat. Ensconced within his protective shell, he nests, creating a home for future Heinemann. He seems to have noticed us. Don't make a move.
What do you think? Is it level yet?
Not even close.
Okay.
Well, that interaction went without incident. Just remember, the Heinemann is just as afraid of you as you are of him.
With the ground on the level, it's a simple job of bringing in the floor.
Close enough?
Close enough.
Knocking up the walls, and hauling in Buster with the all-important tub.
Perfect. There you go. Ta-da!
Savage and Heinemann Construction Company.
They're building to code, but just like all MythBusters construction projects, the ultimate fate is detonation.
Our little disposable outhouse is almost done.
Not quite. I think it needs a coat of paint.
Ah, perfect. Let's do it.
You might say it's a bog-standard job.
I know. It's the worst painting job ever. If I were hiring me to do this, I'd ask me for my money back.
And once it's complete, they can bring in the can.
Yeah, that feels about right.
With the layout matching the movie, it's time for their experimental apparatus to join the John.
I'm about to drill a hole in this bathtub for our instrumentation. The technical term for this drill bit is big honkin' drill bit.
And that makes a big honking hole in the cast iron.
There we go. This here is the plug I just drilled out of the bathtub for our sensing equipment to find out if our dudes would actually survive this blast. And I noticed something really particular about it, which is it's a lot of cast iron. There's a lot of cast iron in the way between our guys and the blast, and it's kind of at an ideal glancing angle. I am starting to feel cautiously optimistic that this blast might be survivable.
Adam's optimistic, but to precisely monitor survivability, they've got this.
So I'm going to install this pipe cap right here in the hole at the bottom of the tub, and inside it are actually our two sensors. These sensors will give us the pressure readings and let us know whether our movie heroes actually survive the blast in this tub.
And for a comparison, Adam fits a twin set of sensors on the outside of the bath.
All right, sensors are in.
Then Jamie adds his finishing touches to their bathroom bomb backdrop.
Just for due diligence, I'm gonna put water in this toilet. It may seem like a silly thing, and it might be, but then on the other hand, water is very good at absorbing energy. And there's gonna be a lot of energy right next to this toilet pretty soon.
Yep, soon it will look like a bomb has hit it.
Bon voyage.
Now it looks right.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's the MythBusters in planes, flying like birds.
I
I definitely like science better when it's got a view.
With the V formation confirmed, the MythBusters are taken to the air for their twist on this fuel-efficient formation.
So we are setting up for what we're calling the extended V. Now this is just like the tight V with one major difference. Instead of being one plane length away from your leader, you're going to be 10 plane lengths away. Now based on our results in the water channel, we should see some sort of a difference. We'll see if that translates to the practical world.
This is a more real-world scenario. The tight V is far too dangerous for normal aircraft, but will increasing the distance of the V still benefit fuel efficiency?
We're about 200 feet from the plane in front of us and the plane behind us. But being this far away, it's hard to find that sweet spot.
With all the squad fanned out in their extended positions, the clock starts once more.
Now the interesting thing out here is that even though theoretically you should have the same effect, I don't feel like we're flying through someone's wing. It's pretty smooth.
Being in the vortex in the long V formation isn't as noticeable, but you can still tell the pilots have to make a lot of adjustments to stay here.
Maybe, but when it comes to applying it to fleets of passenger jets, this could be a more practical formation.
I'm noticing a little bit more of a variation in the numbers. They were a lot more consistent for the tight V. I'm thinking it's a lot harder to stay in that sweet spot when you're in the extended V. It's harder to find it.
And after 10 minutes of data logging, the MythBusters can bring this myth in for a landing.
And that will conclude your in-flight entertainment on MythBust Air. We know you have a choice in travel, so thank you for traveling with MythBust Air.
All right, extended V formation. How'd you guys do?
Well, you know what? I actually saved fuel. I mean, even 10 airplane lengths back, I was able to benefit from that sweet spot.
In the extended V, I didn't see any savings whatsoever, but you know, I suspect it's from being all the way at the end of the pack. It's just so hard to keep compensating and trying to find that sweet spot.
All right, Carrie, you as the plane in the lead, how did you do?
Well, unlike the really tight V formation, in the loose formation, I did not actually get any savings. But honestly, I still think this myth is confirmed for the loose V formation, because if there's even just a little bit of savings for the following planes, in a large scale, that actually translates to a lot of money.
This might be the way to fly in the future.
It's confirmed. So we saw from our data, in the extended V formation, you do actually get some benefit. Not very much, but it is there. And it's significantly safer than the tight V. So if there are any airlines out there, you might be interested in this. Oh, that was amazing.
I mean, you save a little fuel in the V formation with these little planes. Can you imagine if this was applied to airliners?
Down on the range, the MythBusters are prepping for the bathroom boom.
We are almost there, and here's how this experiment is going to play out. Our bomb will be placed exactly where it is placed in the film, directly behind the toilet on the ground. Buster will be inside the cast iron tub with the exact same geometry as we see in the movie, and he will be covered by an actual bomb-proof blanket. Underneath this blanket are 2 pairs of PCB pressure transducers.
And the signal from the sensors will be coming through wires that go into this pipe and are buried in the ground for their protection and are picked up by this data acquisition center, which will take a signal and send it through that wire.
And ends up here, where our trusty David Harding will receive those electrical signals as data and tell us once and for all whether Buster and the tub survived the blast. Pretty cool, huh?
Pretty cool. And the very last piece of this lethal weapon myth is the lethal weapon itself.
We're going to be using just under a kilo of C4 in this experiment. What do I think that's going to do? Well, we've used that quantity before. Specifically, we've used it on the Valkyrie experiment. We turned a 40-foot shipping container from rectangular to tubular, and it was buried underground. So this whole building, I think it's going to be pretty much gone when we're done.
It might make their outhouse more out than house, but it's the same amount of C4 as the bomb in the movie.
We are going to try and find out if Buster would survive in that cast iron bathtub protected by the bomb blanket. And inside that tub, our PCB pressure transducers are actually going to give us some mighty fine readings. They should be able to tell us whether Buster's dead or merely severely injured, or maybe just had his eardrums blown out.
This is the last piece of the mythical puzzle. Will the bathtub and bomb blanket protect Buster from the blast? With everything in position, the guys retreat to the bunker for the final countdown.
This is the Lethal Weapon 2 Bathtub Blast. Charging, ready to go in 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
Oh, 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 oh.
Oh, look, I can see the tub is still there in one piece.
But nothing else in the room.
No, the room is gone.
Totally gone.
There's no doubt that 1 kilo of C4 took out the room. However, the cast iron bathtub seems to be made of tougher stuff.
The tub is fine.
Our sensors are also intact, which is really nice.
There's no sign of the toilet whatsoever.
Well, I found the toilet seat and the toilet mechanism, but as far as the actual toilet...
Yeah, there's like little bits of ceramic.
Well, shall we check with David and see what the data says?
I don't think there's anything else left to do here.
No. Oh, oh, oh. It's one of our cameras. And it's still recording! Nice! This is gonna be an awesome shot.
That camera certainly got up close and personal with the C4 explosion. And if it can survive the blast, could Buster.
Hey, David.
What do we got?
Well, you can see for yourselves. The red and the blue curves are the sensors that were outside the tub.
But clearly right off, we can see the red line and the blue line. The pressure spike is really severe.
180 PSI.
Am I correct that the green line looks pretty minimal?
The maximum pressure inside the tub was 8 PSI.
You're telling me that's survivable?
Very survivable.
No way! That is crazy.
The difference between the sensors inside the tub and the ones on the outside clearly show that the blast is survivable. And, moreover,
would they have had hearing damage?
The threshold for a ruptured eardrum starts around 5 PSI, so there is a chance, and according to our research, it's probably going to be between 10 and 15% chance of hearing damage.
That's still pretty low. That blows my freaking mind.
with only a 10 to 15% chance of hearing damage, it seems that amazingly, this lethal weapon leap is confirmed.
Well, I'm standing on the only intact part of our bathroom set, the cast iron tub, or as I plan to refer to it from here on in, the bomb-proof survival vessel. Buster here is a living being thanks to the strength of this bathtub. And even though I predicted that that might actually occur, it doesn't mean I'm completely blown away looking at the damage around me and finding out that it was true. I am totally astonished. I mean, first of all, it turns out that liquid nitrogen will slow down the detonation of a bomb, and then it turns out that the cast iron tub will totally protect you from the blast when it does go off.
Yeah, how often do we replicate an action sequence and everything turns out to be true?
Everything's confirmed.
Who knew?